Hello, I'm Jordan. I'm going to do a tag today. This is the nostalgia tag, created by Noah over at Everyone Who Reads It Must Converse quite a while ago, I think, and it was recently revived, I believe, by Summer over at Cozy Reading with Quaker Cats. Sorry, Pete's acting up. Um, and she added a few prompts of her own, which I'll be doing. And I was kindly tagged by Matthew over at Bottle and Books, who has a wonderful channel. His channel is like the best kept secret on BookTube, as far as I'm concerned. You should certainly go check it out. In fact, there's no reason for you to be watching my channel when you could be watching his. So please check it out. I will leave a link to all those channels down below. They're all fantastic. First prompt is oldest book from your life that you still own. That would be The Hobbit, I think, which I recently made a video about on my channel. I've had this since I think I was like 10 or 11. And it's in really good shape for a book that's that old for me. I'm very, very hard on my books, which is why most of them don't last to be this old. As you can see, I'm fond of duct taping my books so that the spine doesn't crack. Doesn't seem to work all that well. I don't think I'll do that anymore. But yeah, this is probably the oldest book in my library. First loved library book. I actually do remember this. I think I've mentioned on this channel before that I was very slow in learning to read. I didn't learn until I think well into second grade, which I'm pretty sure is kind of late. But then, it kind of clicked overnight, and suddenly I wanted to read everything in the world. And I went to my my school library, and checked out a Goosebumps book by R.L. Stine. I do not remember the title of it. I remember the cover, but I blew through that in a few days, which was a huge deal for me. Not only because I loved the book, which I did, but it was also just really exciting that I could do that now. And, I've been doing it ever since. Someday I would really like to go back and read that again, just so I could be mortified by how awful it is, perhaps. I don't want to say that. It does what it's supposed to do very well, obviously. But yeah, like I said, I don't remember exactly the title, but I'm sure I could find it. 3 is a book given to you. I'm going to go with this very old, this is from the 1930s, copy of Don Quixote. And it has the famous engravings from Gustave Doré in it, which are lovely. I don't think I will ever read this copy because it's falling apart. I don't think it would last more than a few pages, but it's really nice to have. I have the, what is it, Edith Grossman? Is that who did that translation? Yeah, Edith Grossman. That's the translation I have and read, but this I don't think I will ever actually read, but it's really nice to have. 4 is a book recommended to you. I'm going to go with Cyrano de Bergerac by Edmond Rostand. This was recommended to me by a friend in college, freshman year of college, and it's a play, obviously. I read this in, I think, one sitting in one evening and was just electrified, just blown away. It's just one of those books that I felt invigorated and just full of life and inspiration after reading it, the way you can really only feel in early college. It's so, I didn't read this translation. I read I think the Anthony Burgess translation, which was great. But it was such a wonderful experience that I've actually been afraid to read it since. I've never read it since that night because I'm worried that it's going to destroy that lightning in a bottle feeling that it had. But if you haven't read Cyrano de Bergerac, I really think you should try it. It's a beautiful, wonderful, hilarious play. No. Sorry, Ernie is chewing on my Don Quixote edition from the 1930s. You can chew on a lot, but he's not allowed to chew on that. Moving on, a buddy read text. That would be, I've never done a buddy read in my life until this month when I am reading The Way We Live Now by Anthony Trollope with Steve Donahue, which is great. I will be putting up my first video. Come on, man. Behave. I will be putting up my first video on that probably around Friday. I'm not sure when Steve's putting up his, but like I said, never done a buddy read before. I could not ask for a better partner. So looking forward to that. 6 is books introduced to in high school, or in school. I'm going to choose high school. There were quite a few. One of them that came to mind was The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien, which is a marvelous book. I highly recommend it if you haven't read it. Another one is Beloved by Toni Morrison. That was a book I read in an AP Lit class, I think. And it was one of the first times I really learned how to just go at a book critically and annotate the hell out of it, all of that good stuff. And it's a book I still love. I haven't read it since then. I really want to. I think we underestimate. I never see that book mentioned on lists of like greatest horror novels. And let's not kid ourselves. That is a horror novel. It's just a wonderful, extremely good one. Anyways, and then also I wanted to mention Frankenstein, which I read in that same class, which also blew me away at the time. I read that again recently and was quite a bit less impressed. But it's still a book I like and will probably return to in the future. 7 is genre fiction that inspires nostalgia. I think I would go with Stephen King for that. Like many people, I read a whole lot of Stephen King. Sorry, I have to get this out of his reach. I've tried to make this video, I think, 3 times. For some reason, the rats are quite... they're just misbehaving right now. Right, Stephen King. I think I read a lot of... I know I read a lot of Stephen King in middle school, like many other booktubers and many other people. So he is quite nostalgic for me now. I do still read him fairly often. But yeah, it always kind of brings me back to that time. 8 is literary work that inspires nostalgia. This could also qualify as a genre work that inspires nostalgia. That would be The Time Machine by H.G. Wells, which I read. I was probably like 11 or 12, and loved it. It was just another one of those things where I was I was still fairly new to reading, and I was just blowing through everything. I have since read most of Wells's other famous science romances. I have not read that one since. I really want to get back to it because I loved it at the time. And thinking about it now, I'm pretty sure I would still love it. 9 is a spiritual text that inspires nostalgia. I don't have any because I didn't really read spiritual texts until fairly recently. Now I read a lot, as much as I can kind of get my hands on. But back in the day, not really. I had a middle school teacher who I really looked up to. I loved that teacher. And he was a self-professed agnostic. I think he said he was an agnostic who leaned towards atheism, which just rocked my world at the time. Because I was I wasn't super religious, but I definitely considered myself religious. And, of course my response was to buckle down harder on religion, so I decided I was going to read the Bible. And I was not ready. I don't think I even made it through Genesis, to be honest. But now I'm going back. One of my projects for this year has been to read the King James Bible. I've been making videos on that. I will make a video on the New Testament soon. But other things too. I plan on reading the Quran. I've been reading some Buddhist sutras. It's something I'm very, very interested in now, but it's a relatively recent development, so there's not a whole lot of nostalgia involved. 10 is tag people. I'll do that after I do Summer's added prompts here, which are great. The first one that Summer added is, was there a book banned to you growing up? No, fortunately not. My parents and everyone in my life was pretty okay with me reading whatever I wanted. I think, they probably wouldn't have been okay with absolutely anything. Like if I wanted to read smut, they might not have been okay with that. But luckily I didn't really have a whole lot of interest in that, so I pretty much had free reign. 2 is, when was the first time / first book that you could feel was written by someone from a country different than your own? That's a tough one. I'm going to go with The Non-Existent Night by Italo Calvino, which I read in high school. It was recommended to me by my Italian teacher, actually. I took several years of Italian in high school. I don't remember a word of it. Anyways, The Non-Existent Night, yeah, I wasn't ready for that either. I think the kind of metafictional postmodern tricks that Calvino likes to play, it just went over my head at the time. And then also, it's the first book I remember reading and being like, okay, this is in translation, and that's playing a role here. There's something being lost in translation. So yeah, I'm going to go with The Non-Existent Night by Italo Calvino. 3, have you ever found anything in a book? Yeah, sure. The usual stuff. I think I found money occasionally. I found cool bookmarks, tickets, train tickets, plane tickets. Those are probably the most fun. I've never found a really cool note. A lot of people on BookTube have been mentioning that they find these really ambiguous, heartwarming, or disturbing notes. Someday I would really like to find that. But no, as of yet, nothing all that exciting, nothing worth keeping. 4 is, do you have an upcoming read that inspires nostalgia? One of the genre things that inspire nostalgia is science fiction. And all last summer I was planning on reading a lot of science fiction, and I just didn't get to it. I had other things I was reading. But up in November, we have New Worlds November coming up. And I recently subscribed to Asimov's magazine, which is a science fiction kind of literary journal. I don't think I'll be getting the first edition or the first issue until December, but in any case, I do want to, after Victober, I'm planning on kind of diving into a lot of sci-fi. So that'll be nostalgic, and I'm really looking forward to that. So I'm going to tag a couple people. I'm not sure if they've done it because this is quite old, but I'm going to tag Kelly over at Books I'm Not Reading, who recently made her own video about tags, which is fantastic. And I'm going to tag Tom over at Tom LA Books. Again, I'm not sure if you guys have done this before, but if you haven't, feel free to do it, please. And then also, of course, as always, anyone who's watching this who I didn't directly tag, feel free to do it. It's one of those great kind of nosy tags, which are a lot of fun to make and to watch. So, Lord, that was a long-winded one. Sorry about that. But thank you for watching, and have a good day.